try and capture this as I do it. I've hooked up a fuel bottle to this. I want to check my float level, but there's a few things I learned in my time doing automotive carburetors. But right now I'm just going to elevate this fuel bottle up in the air. See if I can get this to fill up and then stop. Sorry about the camera. There we go. We have filled it to there and stopped. Right? That is stopped. So I can go ahead and set my fuel bottle back down. And that actually has my float, depending on where you measure it. I'm gonna go midway. It's got me at about a quarter, which I think is a little low. Of course, if I take my finger and push down on the float, it comes up to the recommended eighth. That's an eighth of an inch. That's right there. And that's kind of why I wanted to do this, because I did this first. That's where it stops with fuel doing it. And the reason I did that is I have rebuilt. I cannot tell you how many automotive carburetors I rebuilt. I'm an old guy, my mid-60s. I started fixing cars in 1977. I would do 5 carburetors a week. Anyway, and one thing I learned is this style of float changes its weight over time. Ideally, I should have gotten a new float. But over time, that will actually get slightly heavier and slightly heavier. The old metal floats, they would either float or sink. They were full with air. But this is a Bakelite type material, and they change their density. So that has my fuel level, in my opinion, down a touch. But that's where I cut the fuel off at. And I think that this float has changed its density over time, has probably absorbed fuel, and it's heavier than a new one, and it sits deeper in the fuel, is what I think. I don't think it floats as high. I'm going to try it here because that is the specified eighth of an inch, and that's how you're recommended to do this. Again, I am not a motorcycle mechanic. I'm a retired automotive technician. I don't know anything about motorcycles. I've been reading what to do with this, and I'm tinkering with this bike. That's what I'm doing. And a lot of what I do is just going to be playing around, and I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. Please be aware that I do not have a clue what I'm doing. I'm just playing with this. But I think I'm going to go with that. Like I say, that's the required eighth. I can't hold my phone and measure that, but I have done that, and that's an eighth. But it sits a little deep when you just let the fuel shut it off, which is why I wanted to set that up that way and see what it did. Because that's what I used to do with carburetors, with Quadrajet carburetors and Rochester carburetor, anything that had that type of a float. I learned where I wanted the fuel level to be on the specific application. So I would fill the bowl that way with using a fuel bottle, let the float shut the fuel off, and I would measure my fuel level in my bowl because I knew where I needed it to be. I do not know where I need that to be on this carburetor. I've never done one. We're going to play with that and see how it goes. I will say the needle and seat's working great. Shut the fuel right off. I could tell that immediately. One other thing I did notice in this carburetor, this accelerator pump tube, I believe they call that an ejector or an injector, I don't know. Somewhere this carb's been all into. And there's a couple other things wrong that I'll tell you about. But I think somebody had this out and put it back in, and when they did that, I think they tapped on here to drive it in, and they distorted that opening. And I found that the accelerator pump wasn't working, so I found that by spraying carburetor cleaner through it, and I had this really weird pattern. It was turned off to the side, and it was spraying all funny. And I got to noticing that was flattened out. So I took a razor blade in that slot, and I tried to open it up. You can get these tubes, but again, I'm playing. So I'm going to play with this. I took a razor blade, stuck it in that slot, kind of opened that slot back up again, and I improved the pattern, and I rotated it in the body to get it spraying right toward the throttle. And the pattern's not horrible. We'll know what it looks like once I put it together and pump the accelerator. and see what it does. Actually, I could probably do that now, couldn't I? I might try and do that, actually, just to see what it looks like. I don't know. Will that work now? Whoa. Well, we'll see. It's spraying, so I guess it doesn't look horrible. But, yeah. So, anybody has any input on that that's been into these carburetors? Now, let's see. My fuel level just dropped, right? Let's raise my fuel bottle up. See that our float works. And that's where we're stopping. See that? It's a touch lower than where they say. That's about a quarter, and they want an eighth. I'm going to go with that. It's my opinion that I should have gotten a new float. It's my opinion that I should have got a new ejector rod. There's also a couple other things that are wrong with this while I'm here. I wasn't going to make this a long video. These screws are incorrect. I have used the wrong screws in there, and the reason I did that, those screws are actually the throttle and the accelerator pump screw. You'll notice that's sticking up higher there. It's not supposed to be that way. That's supposed to take shorter screws. However, somebody's been into this carburetor, and these threads are messed up. I got about this much, I got about this much thread there. And the same thing with the other one. There's the threads are mixed up. So I needed a longer screw to do it. So what I did was, that's the screws they had in there. They had this screw on the inside one, and they had this screw on the outside one. Both of those are incorrect, but they're longer than what came in it. So I went with those long screws, and I don't think it's going to hurt anything. I don't think it's going to hurt a thing. It'll hold it together. Again, I'm playing worst case scenario. I will buy a new S&S carb and put it on there. But I really don't want to do that. I want to play with this. Oh, and also, I just wanted to mention to those of you that know what's going on, I have in there a 028, I believe they call that an intermediate jet, and a 70 main jet. I believe this to be a stock Evo with open pipes on it. Let me know in the comments what you think about the jetting. We'll play with it. We'll see. I may end up changing it as I go once I get it running. But anyway, I just wanted to show that. All right. Catch up with you later.